Alright class, I'm going to begin with this first example, and just to kind of remind ourselves, this is going to refer back to our learning intentions, where we're going to use what we know from linear graphs and use that to graph quadratic graphs. So today I'm just going to create the table, or the first part, and this table is going to become very familiar, and you'll see that I'm always going to give you the equation, and I'm always going to give you an x that you can actually plug into the equation, right where the x is. So in this case, I started off with -2, and I showed you most of the work here. What I did is I plugged in -2 instead of the x, and I kept a 2 and a -3. In this case, 2 times -2 is -4 minus 3. Wrote that down. My answer is going to be -7. So really what I did here, if I were to show my work, is first I substituted in. Substitute. And then I simplify. All of that together, I'm going to get my -2 is going to be my x coordinate, and my -7 is going to be my y coordinate. Now using that same idea, I'm actually going to create, do one for a -1. So x equals -1, and I'm going to say then y equals 2 times -1 minus 3. In this case, 2 times -1 is the same thing as -2. Minus 3. -2 minus 3 is going to be the same thing as -5. So -5 is actually going to go in here. And I'm going to say my point will be -1, comma, -5. Same idea. Let's say this time I wanted to do x equals 0. Draw the line. So then y equals 2 times 0 minus 3. 2 times 0 is 0. Minus 3, it's going to be -3. Boop, boop. So in here goes the -3. And out here goes the 0, comma, -3. Pretty simple. So now let's use this idea to make the quadratic table. Again, so we're going to use exactly what we know already to apply it to quadratics. So complete the following table. Here's my equation. Here are the x's that I'm going to give you. And we're going to plug those inside in here, in the x squared, and in the x. And that's exactly what I did here. I did 2. I took down the 2 from the top times 2 squared. It's always going to be this whole thing squared, actually, just the number that you substitute. Minus 16, brought that down, times 2. There was another place where I had to substitute it in, plus 20. It's pretty simple. Again, first thing I did was substitute. All of this stuff is just going to be solving. So first I'm going to have 2 times 4, which is 8, minus 32 plus 20. 8 minus 32 plus 20 is going to be -4. You can use the calculator for this, okay, although you should be able to do this in your head. So then I'm going to have 2 and -4. Now if I were to continue this, let me do another example. Let's say now I want to do x equals 3. Now what I'm going to have is y equals 2 times 3 squared minus 16 times 3. Oops, wrong color. Plus 20. So you will get some big numbers. It's okay, that's what calculators are for. But first, in this case, you will have 3 squared is going to be 2 times 9. Minus 16 times 3, which is minus 48, plus 20. 2 times 9 is 18. Minus 48, plus 20. 18 minus 48 is going to be -30. Plus 20 is going to be -10. So that's going to be my y coordinate. All this stuff would ideally go in here. I usually give you enough space to write it in there. But if it doesn't, you can write on the side. That's completely okay. So for x equals 3, I'm going to have y equals negative 10. 3, comma, negative 10. I'm going to do another one just to show us how it works. But most of you already probably get this. It's okay if you want to start the classwork. But again, I want to show you how this idea, this repetition of plugging in is going to be coming up a lot. It's going to get kind of tedious. It's going to get kind of annoying. It's okay. But it's going to encourage you to find shortcuts. So now again, x equals 4. Here goes a hard one. Y equals 2 times 4 squared. Minus 16 times 3. Oops, sorry, not times 3. Times 4. See how I messed up? Plus 20. 4 times 4 is 16, so 2 times 16. 16 times 4 is going to be 64, so minus 64. Plus 20. 2 times 16 is 32. Minus 64 plus 20. Let me take out my calculator. 32 minus 64 plus 20. Negative 12. Hopefully I did my math right. So here's going to be negative 12. And my point is going to be 4, comma, negative 12. Now you can continue doing this. You actually see that 5, I think, is actually also going to be negative 10. But you'll see, again, it's going to be pretty simple, and I think most of you will be fine as long as you check your negative signs. Here's the answers. Again, I was correct. Now, before I continue, let's look at this pattern. So the x's I gave to you, so 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The y's I gave to you, or the y's we figured out, negative 4, negative 4, negative 10, negative 10. But there's also going to be a negative 10 down here. And the 12 looks like it's going to be in the middle. If I were to pick something, what do you think would go down here? Any numbers, go ahead and submit that on Educannon. Now that you hopefully submitted that, probably already guessed it, but it's going to be negative 4. If you look at this, it looks like everything's actually going to be split up right here. You'll see y at the end. We have negative 2 in the center, then you have negative 10 up here. I don't even know what that is. Let's do that. And then you have negative 4 up here. And down here. It's not a coincidence. Keep that in mind. So to graph it, this is where the fun part comes in. You already did all your work, and I copied down all your points over here. And the things that we're going to identify today are the vertex, the x-intercept, and the y-intercepts. So how do I graph it? Let me just show you how I do it. I have a 2, a 3, a 4, a 5, and a 6. This is the y-axis. This is the x-axis. So all I care about the x is going to be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Now for the y-axis, I'm going to want negative 4, negative 10, negative 12, negative 10, negative 4. And it's negative, so it's going to go down here. Negative 2, negative 4, negative 6, negative 8, negative 10, and negative 12. And they don't have to be exactly spaced out, so it's completely okay if you leave some blanks in there. And let me pick another color. So now is where you plot the points. So negative 2, negative 4, you go over 2, down 4, right there. You get a bigger one. 3, negative 10, you go down over to 3, and then you go down to negative 10. 4, negative 12, same idea. 5, negative 10, you go over to 5, you go down 10. And then 6, negative 4. So now to draw the actual line, all you have to do is connect the dots. Now with parabolas, you know they're going to be U-shaped, so you can actually just go like this. Make a little U at the end, and then come back up. And at the end, it's always going to go on forever. Now, because this is always going to go on forever, does that mean that this graph has a maximum or a minimum? Those of you who said minimum, you were correct, because maximum, you can pick any point, and there's always going to be one point that's bigger than it. Now, with the minimum, we always know there's going to be a minimum, and this goes into the first definition that we have today, which is the vertex. The vertex in this case is the minimum point, and it's going to be 4, negative 12. So this one right here. That has to do with why you can split this in half, and this 10 is the same thing as this one, and that one is going to be the same thing as that one. Now, the x-intercepts, they're a little bit harder to see in this case, but they're not really anything specific. They're not actual, you can't really plot them right now, but you know that it's going to be this point and this point. And you know that because that's where it crosses the x-axis. So here's the x-intercept, and then the other one's going to be over here. The y-intercept you can't see in this case, but I bet you that if I continue this line, it crossed somewhere over here. So I'm just going to say that the y-intercept would potentially be over here. But again, it's wherever the the line crosses the y-axis. So this is the main idea. There's a lot of work going into behind this, and there is really no other easier way. But it's pretty awesome that I know that most of you can already do this. So go ahead and give this a shot, try the classwork, and let your partners know before you ask me if you have any questions.